Beautiful day and good. It's nice to see all of you today.
Nice to see you, Barry.
How wonderful that is to get together and to speak of things that normally people don't speak of.
Can I say hi to Barry?
Yep.
I have here this wonderful book on the universe. It's called Essentials. I'm sorry, Fundamentals 10 Keys to Reality. And it's written by Frank Wilczek, who is a Nobel Prize winning scientist, a physicist, who in this book talks about the nature of reality as we understand it from the scientific revolution. Now, what is he talking about? In the 1700s, something occurred where people began to develop different ways of appreciating the universe, probing the universe as never before, and reorienting themselves to an understanding of the universe that had never been realized up to that time. One of the greatest realizations was that the earth moved. The earth moved, and it wasn't as was thought to be at the center of the universe. For thousands of years, people believed the earth was at the center of the universe, which meant that human beings had a very special place in the universe. And it was said that God had made it this way. Good morning. Good morning. God had made it this way to show us how special we were. Now, when the scientists came along, they said that we were not apparently at the center of the universe. We were like all the other planets and stars. We moved about the sun, and that made us not so special. Are we doing exercises? That made us not so special. And that revolution in thinking caused a lot of distress in many people. People who wanted to believe that our being at the center of the universe made human beings very, very special. Today, there are people who believe that we're the only life in the universe. And this is a kind of religious belief that we represent the sole living beings in the universe. What do you think about that?
Unlikely.
Does that make sense?
It's unlikely.
We inhabit a planet Earth, which we now know is not unlike many planets in the universe. We believe that there are many Earth-like planets out there just waiting to be discovered. And that leaves us with the proposition that there might be life on those planets. Since the universe is made of the same stuff everywhere and seems to have the same rules, it's logical that there might be life like us or something like it somewhere else in the universe. What do you think?
Most likely.
So we might be just one of the many species of life that has arisen out of the universe. And here we get to the question of what is the universe? Is the universe just a bunch of stars and planets and where life might arise? Or is the universe a kind of nursery for life? And possibly is the universe alive itself in some way? Now that's a big question. If we look around us, tables, chairs, the floor, our clothing, bodies, the light in the room, all these things seem very solid and permanent. All these things appear to be a certain way. But science says there is more to it. That the things that make us up, the world that we live in, is made of something we don't really understand. It's made of something we have called atoms and molecules, which are tiny structures that have the ability to form many different things. And one of those things is life. That's really amazing, I think. That life has come out of this world of atoms and molecules, which have the abilities to combine with each other and make new things like water, sugars, starches, the things that proteins, the things that make up the world of life. We don't know how life began on the earth. We have no idea really how it started and how from the very beginning it was a very complex thing. All life is made of a structure that can reproduce itself. That's pretty amazing, right? Every cell in the body can reproduce itself. How incredible is that? They say that every 7 years or so, we are virtually a new person. Because our bodies, we're brand new every 7 years because our body has turned over almost each cell, and now we are a new being in a sense. We are always being renewed. Life has the ability to refresh itself, physically and mentally. Isn't that a wonder?
Sure is.
Isn't that something? That we can be renewed.
Bless.
Indeed, each day we are renewed, in a sense. Each day is new. Each moment is new. The moment, you can say, is manufactured or created by this universe, which is interacting every second to create the world around us. The chair we're sitting on is not just sitting there, it's not just happening by itself, it's being put together by the atoms that make it up. The atoms are full of energy and full of activity, and literally are creating the chair as we sit on it. The whole world is being created right before us in every moment. This is the conclusion you can draw from what we have learned about atoms and molecules. And that's an amazing story in itself, that we can probe into something so small that 10 million of them can fit across the head of a pin. That's unbelievable, I think. You know, as humans develop science, they develop more and more ways of understanding and reaching inside of things and looking out into the universe to see the grand sweep of things. It's only 100 years ago that we discovered that there were island universes. We call them galaxies. These universes consist of billions and billions of stars. Each galaxy, like our own Milky Way galaxy, is home to hundreds of billions of stars. Incredible. The numbers are beyond the comprehension. And up to 100 years ago, we thought that the Milky Way was the entire universe. This Milky Way, which you can go out in the summertime now, and you can look up, if you live in a dark place, you can see the band of light, which we call the Milky Way, which is our island universe. I wish I had a picture of it here. But it's a spiral of stars that extend 100,000 light years across. 100,000 light years means that if you stood with a flashlight at one edge of the universe, at one edge of the galaxy, and you turn that flashlight on, it would take 100,000 years for the beam of light to cross from one edge of the universe to the other. And light moves at an incredible speed, right? 186,000 miles every second. It's impossible to even imagine how fast light moves. Light can go around the Earth 7 times in 1 second.
Amazing.
That is amazing, right? And yet, the distance of the galaxy, the distance of this structure we call the Milky Way, would take 100,000 years for a beam of light to travel from one edge to the other. That's how vast it is. The nearest star to the Earth is 4 light years away. Which means that when you look up and you see this star, you're actually seeing it by the light that has left the star and traveled to your eye, and now you're perceiving this star with light that left that star 4 years ago. So that means you're seeing the star as it existed 4 years ago. That's pretty weird, right? That's how when we look out into space and we see the stars, we're seeing the stars as they existed in the past. Weird, right? Because the light has taken so long to get to us, and that light actually has to hit your eye and register in the brain where the picture is made, and that light came to us over vast distances. Even the light in the room, right? This light in the room, which comes from the sun, that light in the room was on the sun's surface 8 minutes ago. So when you're looking up at the sun, and you shouldn't do this really, but when you look up at the sun, because you don't want to hurt your eyes and do this, but when you look up at the sun, you're seeing the sun as it existed 8 minutes ago. That is very strange.
It sure is.
Right? That is very strange, but it points to the strangeness of the universe and how it really works. Like the atoms that make up our body are mostly empty space. 99.9% of us is empty space. If you took out all the space in the atoms that make us up, we'd be as big as grains of sand.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing, right?
That
So
is
we're
a
mostly empty space, but how is it that things are solid in the world? How can this table or the chair you're sitting on be so solid if it's empty space? It's because the parts that are making up the atoms are very powerful. They have great energy, and that's what holds up the world. There's a wonderful poem written by an Indian poetess called Mirabai, in which she says, I bow down to the energy that holds up the mountains. I bow down to the energy that holds up the mountains. And that's pretty, she wrote this, I think, in the 14th or 15th century. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. She wrote this hundreds of years ago, but she intuitively grasped the nature of how atoms and molecules work and how the vast energies inside the atoms and molecules construct the world. It is the energy within the atoms that make the world what it is. In fact, scientists today are saying that our ideas about atoms are not right anymore. That really it's all energy. Somehow atoms are focal points for energy. Einstein said that everything was basically energy fields that work together to produce the atoms and the world. So we are energy, basically. Energy put together in a coherent way, which is totally amazing. You know, we live in a universe of miracles. 14 billion years ago, the first miracle happened, which was the emergence of the universe. It was then a great explosion of forces that created the first atoms, hydrogen and helium. That's all there was. Maybe a little beryllium, boron, and a couple other things, but basically the universe consisted of hydrogen and helium. That's it. You can't make a mouse out of that. You can't make a tree out of that. You can't make water out of that. So how did we go from hydrogen to the world we see around us today? Full of stars and planets, full of energy, full of life. That is a miracle. In the first few million years of the universe, when that hydrogen gas was expanding, something interesting happened. The hydrogen gas started to come together in places. It pulled towards each other. It pulled in within what am I saying? It contracted. Instead of simply expanding out forever, in places the hydrogen gas started to contract. And eventually it heated up, because when you have motion, you have heat, which with scientists tell us that's what heat actually is. It's motion. Something is moving, and that movement is creating heat. And so the hydrogen gas, as it pulled together, and why would it pull together? That hydrogen gas created the first stars. A new light was now permeating the universe. A new light was beaming out through the universe. How incredible. And it turns out that the way a star works is to bring gas together so close that it fuses into something heavier. So hydrogen gas would fuse and become helium. And then the helium could fuse again and becomes boron or beryllium or lithium. And that's how all the atoms, or not all the atoms, that's how many of the atoms that make up our bodies were created through the burning of stars. That's pretty amazing, right? If that didn't happen, if the stars just burned hydrogen gas and that was the end of it, we wouldn't be here at all. Because we're made of things like oxygen and nitrogen and carbon, and those things needed to be created after the Big Bang, after the initial explosion of the universe. And those things came about in stars, and then those atoms, those heavier atoms, could be thrown out into space as the stars died, and new stars would form, which included some of those heavy atoms. And here we are. Life of all kinds emerging from those heavy atoms. And basically, all life is made up of just a handful of heavy atoms: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, iron, sulfur, phosphorus. It turns out the most common atoms happen to be the ones that make life. I find that pretty extraordinary. There is a hidden reality. There is a hidden world that we can't see or feel or touch directly. Actually, there is a way to perceive that world by smell, for example. When we smell things, we are actually smelling molecules released by the thing. So an orange is, you're actually smelling molecules of fragrance released by the orange. And those are molecules. Those are tiny, tiny things that are imperceptible to our senses generally. The world is made of things that we cannot see or touch or feel generally, but they're there nonetheless. And we have to be grateful for their existence. We see ourselves as individuals, right? Each one of us, and we are individuals. Each one of us has its own history, its own families, its own, its own problems, its own joys. We all have our individual stories, and yet beneath that, beneath the surface, which we cannot see, we are made of the same stuff. We contain the same atoms. We contain the same workings. When we eat a piece of bread, the body takes apart that piece of bread, uses the energy in that bread to power us. And it's the same for all of us. How that digestion works is the same. How the blood circulates in the body is the same. How the heart beats is the same. How the rhythms of the brain are the same. One of the discoveries of the ancient yogis and religious people, theologians, was that there was something in the universe, something that was creating all things. In the West, they call it God. In the East, they call it Brahma. For Native Americans, it's the Great Spirit. For Aborigines in Australia, it's the Great Dream. We are all part of the Great Dream. Dream in the mind of God, you might say. In India, all things are seen as expressions of God. There is nothing but God. What seems like an individual is an expression of God. Any questions or comments? Each moment is a miracle.
Sure is.
Each moment we are here, we are standing on the ground of mystery. This is a poem by Mary Oliver. It's called Wild, Wild. This is what love is. The dry rose bush, the gardener in his pruning, suddenly bursts into bloom, a madness of delight, a holy gift. Why couldn't Romeo have settled for someone else? Why couldn't Tristan and Isolde have refused the shining cup, which would have left peaceful the whole kingdom? Wild sings the bird of the heart in the forest of our lives. And over, Faust, standing in the garden, doesn't know anything that's going to happen. He only sees the face of Marguerite, which is irresistible. And wild, wild sings the bird. That's quite a poem. Wild sings the bird of the heart in the forests of our lives. Do we take time out to feel the heart, to feel the joy within us? Do we take time out to feel the air, to feel the light, the ground under our feet? Each of those things is an inscrutable mystery and wonder. Every breath we take is a mystery. The air we breathe is full of oxygen, made by plants, we now know. If you went back a billion years or so ago, you wouldn't be able to breathe because the plants of the world hadn't created enough oxygen. It was only about 600 million years ago that oxygens reached, I believe, 10%, which gave rise to new forms of life. And from those forms of life, we arose eventually. But plants still had to put out more oxygen in order for us to be here. And so today the level of oxygen is about 20%. If it sank just 1 or 2%, we might be in a bit of trouble. But it's pretty constant. It's been constant for a long time. And that's because plants have had enough time to put out enough oxygen so that animals like us and elephants and tigers and even mice can exist. What is the universe?
I don't know.
Hmm?
I just said I don't know what the universe is. You
I
tell
don't
me.
think anybody knows. I don't think anybody knows what the universe is. Certainly, it's more than we think.
Right.
Hmm? Certainly, we are not here by accident. Now, it has been long debated whether the universe has a purpose. What do you think? Does the universe have a purpose? Now, some scientists say there is no purpose. It just is the way it is. I don't believe that. Personally, I believe the universe has a purpose, and that purpose is to evolve life and evolve mind, and that it is an inherent feature of the universe that creates complicated life that has the ability to think, to be present, to appreciate, to love. One of the most astounding things in the universe, I think, is this thing we call love.
Right.
Why should it be?
Oh, I don't know.
You know, on YouTube, you can see all kinds of little videos. And I was just reminded of a video I saw a while ago about different animals expressing love to human beings. Dogs, cats, a goose, even a lion. There's a video that is about this couple, this man and woman who raised a lion as a cub. And then I don't know where they raised this lion. I don't know where that took place, but they had this lion and it got too big. So they had to bring it to the jungle and release it in the jungle. And they did that, and they went back years later to see if they could find this lion. And sure enough, the lion comes running out of the bush, and they're really scared. This couple is really scared there for a moment, and who wouldn't be? So you don't know what the lion is going to do, and this lion recognizes them and jumps on them and starts to lick them after years of being away. This lion is expressing love for these people. It's a very extraordinary video. And also there are other videos that show you how animals and how animals interact in a loving way with each other. Um, what is the universe?
You tell us, you the scientists. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Right.
It is. All we know. Mhm.
I guess animals love each other just like humans do.
What's that?
Animals love each other just like humans do.
That's right. That's right. You can see this when you look at animals with their babies, with their children, how they take care of their children. Even insects, some insects take care of their baby insects.
Right.
Um, it's pretty amazing. Um, the um, the life is very mysterious. There are many levels to it, many expressions that we have afforded us in this world. Here is that poem I mentioned earlier by Mirabai, in which she says the energy that holds up the mountains is the one Mirabai bows down to. This poem is called The Clouds. If you don't mind, I'll read it. When I saw the dark clouds, I wept, O dark one. I wept at the dark clouds. Black clouds soared up and took some yellow along. Rain did fall, some rain fell long. There was water east of the house, west of the house, fields all green. The one I love lives past those fields. Rain has fallen on my body, on my hair, as I wait in the open door for him. The energy that holds up the mountains is the one Mirabai bows down to. He lives century after century, and the test I set for him he has passed. A beautiful poem, no? Here's another beautiful poem called The Clay Jug, and this is by Kabir. Another mystic of old. Inside this clay jug there are canyons and pine mountains, and the maker of canyons and pine mountains. All 7 oceans are inside, and hundreds of millions of stars. The acid that tests gold is there, and the one who judges jewels, and the music from strings that no one touches, and the source of all water. If you want to know the truth, I will tell you the truth. Friend, listen. The God whom I love is inside. Jesus said the kingdom of God was within and without. His disciples asked when the kingdom of God was to come. And he answered, if you wait for the birds to tell you, you will wait a long time. Or if you wait for the fish, you will like to tell you, you will also wait a long time. But know that the kingdom of God is here now. The kingdom of God, he said, was stretched out before us, but we see it not. Any questions or comments?
Well, you know, God works in mysterious ways anyway. So just listen to what he, he was saying. I'm learning a lot because a lot I did not know. And that's all I'm going to say.
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
I was just saying, I appreciate all the things that you know because when I was in school, I used to really love science. And
Oh, yes. Thank you.
I'm just glad to, be able to be in your company and to know all these things because, these are some things that we should know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel it's a great privilege to be able to speak about science and to share some of what I have studied. And I appreciate it if so much when when people have an appreciation or love for science. And we live in a time when we have this thing we call science, which has opened up our understanding of the world in certain ways, not in all ways, but certainly science is contributing to a view of the world which we hadn't been able to comprehend earlier in earlier times. The vastness of the universe, for example, is is now becoming more understood. That there are more stars than grains of sand on the beaches of the world is an extraordinary statement. We know now that there are trillions of galaxies, and each galaxy may have hundreds of billions of stars and planets as well. And so the universe is full of stars and planets that we cannot even imagine. We cannot even imagine the vastness of the universe to any degree, I think. Its expanse is beyond human, seems to be beyond human comprehension. Einstein said that we were really limited with our senses because we hadn't, our senses weren't good enough to really allow us to appreciate the the universe. Now we have telescopes which expand our senses and microscopes and all sorts of instruments which expand the senses like sight and sound and the brain, and we can expand those things now because of our instruments, and we can understand something about the universe, but I don't think we can ever really appreciate the nature of this incredible universe which has produced life and humans. You know, there are scientists who say, well, since we discovered that the Earth is like the other planets, it's not the center of the universe as we once thought. We're just ordinary, we're nothing special about us. But I think that's wrong. That it took 4 billion years for humans to arrive on the planet Earth is very special. A long and circuitous journey to the moment when humans arrived on Earth and humans were now able to comprehend the Earth. All animals and plants are wonders and very special.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
You need to get somebody.
Oh. Let me see.
I think I'll go tell what's his name?
Wait.
The art of Ohio.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll try. I think my sound is up as high as it'll go.
Yeah. It was like that last week with Katie.
Cut off automatically.
Just all of a second.
Hello.
It was like that last week with Katie with the other girl.
Hold on a second. Talk right now.
Hello. How are you? Can you hear me?
I didn't hear anything.
Try it again.
Hello. How are you?
The radio mode.
Can you hear?
Aux input mode.
Output mode.
Hello?
Inputs.
Say something. I don't know what's wrong with that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you hear me?
All right, I turned that off, so now we can hear you. It's just not as loud.
Oh, okay. I'll try to talk up.
You gotta speak up a little bit because it's not as loud now. I had to unplug that speaker.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we're coming to the end of this discussion, and I'm very glad that you've stayed with it and you are so engaged. I want to read something to you, but before I do, I want to say that no matter what we learn about the universe, we also have to appreciate who we are from inside and the gifts that we have been given, which come to us from a mysterious source, a mysterious place, which we may never understand. And here I want to read a letter to you. And this letter is written by a nun to a friend of hers. And it was written in Italy in the 1400s. I'm sorry, the year 1513. And this is a letter from Fra Giovanni to a friend. She says, I salute you. I am your friend, and my love for you goes deep. There is nothing I can give you which you have not. But there is much, very much, that while I cannot give it, you can take. No heaven can come to us unless our hearts find rest in today. Take heaven. No peace lies in the future which is not hidden in this present little instance. Take peace. The gloom of the world is but a shadow. Behind it, yet within our reach, is joy. Take joy. Life is so full of meaning and purpose, so full of beauty, that you will find earth but cloaks your heaven. Courage then to claim it, that is all. And so I greet you with profound esteem and with the prayer that for you, now and forever, the day breaks and the shadows flee away.
Man,
Ole.
Thank you. Thanks for being in class today. It was a joy to be with you. Take care and be well.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Do the same.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Have
Take
a
your wife out for Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. All right. Hopefully, we'll see each other next time again.
Okay.
Ole.
Be
Ole,
well.
Hope so. That's a good, that's a good.
it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Let's enjoy. Take care.
You too.
Have a good lunch, a good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah. That was very good.